Okay, class, today we're going to do exponents and logarithms. So looking at this sheet, let's focus on the top half first. It shows on this graph that I have the function of 2 to the power of x. So I want to know for what value of x is f of x equal to 20. So I know that I'm looking at a point that's about right here, right on the graph. So what I'm saying is, what exponents can I use on a base of 2 to get an answer of 20, or to solve this equation right here? 2 to the what power will be 20? While we may not know how to solve this, we can approximately solve this, showing it a couple of different ways. Okay, the first example we want to use is trial and error. So if I use trial and error to approximate the solution to the nearest tenth, I know that between what two whole numbers is the solution going to fall? That would be correct, because it's looking at about 20. 20 falls in between a 4 and a 5, right? So now I could go ahead and figure out what 2 to the 4th power is, which is 16. 2 to the 5th power is 32. And then I can go so on and so forth. And what solution do I get that's closest to 20? That would be x equaling 4.3. Now another method that I can use is I could use a table, because the table would show me approximately what the solution is to the nearest hundredths. So if I were to plug in y to the 2 to the x power and y equals, this is what my table would look like. So now I can see that even closer, my answer is 4.32. Now don't forget also that we could use the trace method on our calculator. I could go ahead and put in y1 2 to the power of x and y2 20 and see where they intersect, which would be this point right here. And if I were to do that method, I would find out that it would tell me exactly that it's 4.3219. And the question we have to ask, since this is algebra 2, is that is there a way to solve 2 to the x power equal 20 algebraically? Well, what we need to do is undo the exponent, much like we undo any other operation. If I add 4, what am I going to have to do? I'm going to have to subtract 4. If I multiply by 3, what am I going to have to do? I'm going to have to divide by 3, or multiply times 1/3, which is the same as dividing by 3. And if I take the square of something, what am I going to have to do? I'm going to have to do the square root, right? Well, in such the same way, if I take the logarithm, the opposite of my logarithm is exponents. The opposite of my exponent is logs. So the way to undo an exponent is to find the log. Let's go to the next page. And remember, if you need to write this down, just take a moment and pause your video. Okay, now looking at the back, it says, what does the graph of the logarithm function look like? So if we look at exponential and logarithmic functions, how could I generate the logarithm graph? What do you notice about both of those points? That's correct. They're inverses of each other. So because they are inverses, how do we solve inverses? That's correct. We switch the x and y coordinates. So I could simply switch my x and y, and that will give me the graph of my logarithm. So that's how it looks like on the graph. Let's talk about how we write this. So if I know that b to the x power is a, then I know that my log of b, which is called base b, of a, which is my argument, is going to equal x, which is my exponent. So make sure you understand that. So what that's saying is my x here would be my exponent when I solve the equation. My a would go right here, and then whatever my b is, that would be my base. Now let's take a moment and look at one of the examples below. Okay, let's look at the first one. Now, for the two lines right here, don't let me forget it. I'll make sure y'all get the answers to these in class, but let's go ahead and go to A right now. So 7 to the 2nd power is 49. If that is correct, how would I write that as a log? What did we say that the 7 was? That's correct. That's my base. Let me make my pen just a little bit thinner here. So I know I'm going to have log of base 7. Now, what is the 49? Correct. 49 is my argument. So I'm going to have 49. And what I'm trying to find is where my exponent goes. So that's going to be 2. So that would be log of base 7 of 49 equals 2. So now I want you to go ahead and try to see how far you can get with a couple of more of these, and then we'll finish tomorrow in class. Have a good night.